Our final presentation for the day is another friend of Seniors Action Quebec who's been on our board for 5 years, serving his 6th year, Andrew Dufour. Andrew is the founder and the president of Customized Home Care in Montreal. It's a based home care agency. Andrew has also worked in the industry for the past 15 years in senior level finance and procurement. Andrew worked for many national and global companies such as TELUS, Air Canada, Abbott Laboratories, Pfizer, and General Electric. Andrew is a certified accountant, CPA, and a member of the Ordre professionnel agréé de Québec. He holds a bachelor's degree in accounting from Concordia University, and I mentioned he already sits on the board, and he's also a local resident at Ile Perrot. So welcome, Andrew, and thanks very much. And he's going to tell us everything we can learn if you're a caregiver, employee benefits, rebates, what you can hope to claim from the provincial government.
Well, thank you, Ruth, and thank you for inviting me here today. One of the things that I'm very passionate about is families who are looking for home care solutions. When I started out, there were some home care solutions and how to finance those solutions, but they weren't very transparent for a lot of families. And the maze of different financing programs out there, government programs, were not very clear to folks. And we made it our mission to try to bring that to light. So I'm going to just give you a little bit of information about us, and hopefully this will move. There you go. So there's us. We were formed in 2013, and I have a team of caregivers, and that's my team there. So we provide home care services for families in the West Island and in the Montreal area. So what does home care involve? And I'm hoping, is everyone able to see that, or is that an eye chart for most folks? Yeah, it's an eye chart? Okay, so it's your eye exam for the day, okay? So professional caregivers involve any number of things. It could involve, and we try to make caregiving as broad as possible. You know, who really is a caregiver? There's the natural caregiver, a family member who takes care of doing the groceries and going to the bank and doing all the things, the administrative parts of care. There might be the family member that provides the personal care, the showers, the toileting, the dressing, the meal prep, all of those aspects of care. And then there's also part of care is, you know, the financial part. So we don't limit it to just, you know, the physical stuff we do to somebody. It's all aspects of the care. So we define it very broadly. So what does it really cost? Private home care. Because at the end of the day, when the public home care system, when the public system is not fully meeting your needs, what does it really cost? You could hire your own caregiver. Now the going rate is $15 an hour, and that is the new minimum wage. That it's not the actual legal minimum wage, but it is the new, I guess, popular minimum wage that people are looking for, and it can range from $15 an hour up to $28 an hour. When you start doing the math on the number of hours of care you require, it becomes very expensive. So now that you're all sitting, I'm going to give you an idea of what some families pay on a yearly basis. Think of your mortgage. How many people have a mortgage? Think about that every year. Paying that every year for home care. So as you can see, the numbers mount up really quite a bit if you're talking for 24/7 care. Some companies will offer minimum hours, you know, just for minimum 3 and 4 hours to have somebody come in, and so depending on what your solution is, you're paying more or less. In the private care, it's on demand, so you don't really have to, you know, you just call somebody, you vet them, and then you put them in place if you like what they have to offer. On the public home care, it's our tax dollars paying. I mean, I'm a believer nothing is ever free. Somebody pays, it's just whose pocket is coming from, and essentially all that's coming from our pockets. So in a public system, they will give you a minimum number of hours. Probably you could have somebody come between 30 and 45 minutes, give a shower, very basic kind of care, very task-oriented care. And you'd be on a waiting list. So there are the really two different options related to home care. And then there's the natural home caregivers, the mom, the dad, the brother, the sister, and all of those. And usually they're the ones at the front line giving all the care they can until they burn out. So how do you pay for home care? So I want to focus in on how can somebody afford home care with those numbers. So just to give you a little bit of an idea, caregivers are increasingly providing financial assistance to seniors or are managing a tight monthly home care budget. So I believe Glenn Marcotte went through all of the different types of income supplements, old age security, and he gave you a nice rundown of all the details. But when you match that up against what it actually costs versus what you're getting just based on what government provides, it doesn't match up. According to Statistics Canada, 12.5% of Canadian seniors now live in poverty, and between 2014 and 2015, 75,000 more seniors became low income. They've done some things on the federal level to try to give people more money in their pocket, but it's still not enough. The burden of home care, whether it's funding it yourself or doing it yourself, is quite high. Government assistance income could range from $738 to $1,900 a month. So $1,900 is the upper limit, which doesn't really cover a whole lot. When you think of the cost of housing, it doesn't leave a whole lot for medication, doesn't leave a whole lot for food, doesn't leave a whole lot for any of the things that you might need in your life. Okay, so where does money and support come from? Well, we've got the basic ones. We've got Canada Pension, the Quebec Pension Plan, the employer-based pensions, personal investment income, retirement savings, all the usual suspects. But then there's some others that people don't look very closely at, and they don't realize that they have them. And we're going to focus in on some of them now. So we're going to focus in on insurance policies for a second. Okay, your insurance policy. Let's say, in most cases, let's say in your insurance policy, you will have home care services built in your insurance policy. And it could be a work-based insurance policy. Now, in that policy, it says you're able to get, the care of a nurse or the care of some type of professional, like an occupational therapist or a physiotherapist, but it does not say in those policies that it includes the services of a caregiver. And what we call that caregiver, a PAB. You have to get a special policy for that. And so there are a few little intricacies and tricks built into the insurance policies. First thing is, there's a bar you have to cross. The insurance company, let's say it's your employer-based insurance policy, oh God, you get, something happens, you need care of a nurse, as an example. A doctor has to certify that a care of a nurse is needed. So a doctor has to sign and say, that's what's needed. Then you got to bring that piece of paper to your insurance company, and you got to say, yes, that my doctor signed off on it. And the insurance company will say, oh, okay, well, very good, very nice. Okay, let me ask you a question. So where is the CLSC in all of this? They're going to ask the question, how come the CLSC is not providing? Well, I didn't go to them because I'm covered for a nurse. Well, you know what? It's primary care. So you have to go to your CLSC, see if they're going to provide the care. And if they can't provide the care, just send us a note. Have them send us a little note saying, okay, we can't provide it for whatever reasons, resources, expertise, whatever the case might be. Now, how many people have tried to contact somebody from the CLSC about anything? Right? So there's built-in an institutional barrier already so that you can't unlock the benefits you have. Now, when we talk to families, we say push, push, and push. We say before you leave the hospital, make sure that that doctor signs that you need a nurse at home. Then let's talk to the team at the hospital to get the social workers involved to say, okay, do you have resources in your area to get this kind of medical care you need at home? Early on in the process, never waiting until you get home to do it, but do it at the point where the greatest opportunity for change to happen takes place. So there's also other types of credit. Disability and, Quebec home support programs. And then there's the veterans benefits. And then there's the health services system. Okay? So in the insurance policy, we'll go through and we'll say, okay. We'll say, these are all the types of practitioners, and then the access to it is, in most cases, a prescription is needed by a doctor. And then we go through all the institutional issues I just mentioned. So as you can see with your insurance policy, it'll provide you all these wonderful services that you may or may not have access to, okay? So the idea is, if you're in the hospital, get it done early. Get it done while you're there. Disability tax credits. Now, this is a little known vehicle. Let's say somebody gets diagnosed with a condition. Let's say it's Parkinson's. You had Parkinson's for 5 years now. You don't think, because as time goes on, your condition gets worse, but you're not really thinking that far ahead. You're just thinking about today, and you're fine today. By getting this disability certificate, it's activated at the moment you are diagnosed. So, here's what happens. You get diagnosed with a degenerative condition, like Parkinson's as an example. You then get a form, you fill it out, and you send it into the federal government. The federal government assesses you based on a form that your doctor fills out as well, and he or she attests to, yes, you were diagnosed with Parkinson's, and it's a degenerative condition. The moment you get that diagnosis, the moment you get the okay from Revenue Canada, you can start deducting all kinds of expenses right away against your income. So you can go back 10 years. Now, what this certificate does is it gives you flexibility. If you are disabled, you'll get about a standard $8,000 every year that you can deduct on your tax returns, and you can transfer it to a spouse if you like, or you can use your medical expenses. Which one is the most advantageous to you is the one that you use. This certificate gives you that flexibility to choose. So all you have to do is apply for it, get your doctor to attest that this is your condition, and then you can proceed to have this certificate. It's always good to have it in your back pocket because you never know when you're going to need it. And let's say 10 years have passed, let's say 5 years have passed, or 6 years have passed, and then you finally get this certificate filled out, you can go back 10 years and claim all those expenses. So think about your medical expense. Let's say you were claiming your medical expenses. You're limited to going back only a certain number of years. So if you forget medical expenses from a couple of years ago, you can only go back a couple of years. You can't go back 10 years. This allows you to go back 10 years because of your condition. So, and yeah, that's a good point. Keep all your receipts. Keep everything. Put it aside. Keep it because it's going to be valuable. Where does other money come from? Registered Disability Savings Plan. Now, I'm not a big fan of government. I think if you let them on their own, they'll mess up a lemonade stand. But this program, they got it right. This is the Registered Disability Savings Plan. So if you can imagine, government, for every dollar you spend, they will give you $3. For up to a maximum of $70,000 in a lifetime. Now think of how this would work. Let's say you are in your 40s and you are diagnosed with a degenerative condition like Parkinson's. You get your disability certificate, you apply for it, and let's say you're still earning a relatively decent income and you can still work. You could then, while you are progressing in life, You've got your disability certificate. You approach an investment manager, a wealth manager, and you say, I want this registered disability savings plan in place for myself. He or she will then set this up for you based on your condition, and you can put money aside for your future. And every time you put money aside, the government will give you $3. $3 for every dollar you put. To a maximum every year, $3,500, to a maximum per year of $3,500, to a maximum overall of $70,000. But one other component that's very important in there is compounding interest. As you are investing that money, you're compounding it, and you're compounding government-free money. And this is one of the ways you can help prepare for your future. You can prepare for a child. If a child is in this case, you can do it and have them signed up for it. If you are in an income where your income is, family income is $30,000 or below $30,000, the government will give you a bond. And that bond is $1,000 a year. As long as you're over 18, $1,000 a year to a maximum of $20,000 they'll give in a lifetime. So you have some tools. And so this was one of the programs that really helps families out for disabled children. You know, if you see yourself getting into a condition where you may need to put some money away for one of those conditions that you may be diagnosed with. The important thing for you to do is you're always advocating for yourself. Because most investment advisors do not know about this. They are not versed in how this works. You have to specifically say to them, I want a registered disability savings plan. You have to come armed with your certificate, and they have to do the rest. And if your advisor can't do that, you need to find one who can, because there's money being left on the table. This is the program that Quebec got right. It's the advance payment for occasional services. So Revenue Quebec will provide you a 30% monthly tax credit based on home care spending. So if you think about it, now this is one of those programs. If you look at all the other programs, other tax credits, they'll all end up where you have to file your tax return, and at the end, in April sometime, you're going to get a deposit in your bank account for the amount that the government took out of your pocket that they shouldn't have taken. This program gives you your credits up front on a monthly basis. So if you spend $100 for home care in any particular month, they'll give you back $35 by filling out a form. If your income rises to the level of roughly about $57,000, they will then claw back 3% of that 35%. However, if you fill out a form that says, you know what, my husband, my wife, my loved one is dependent, you have that filled out, they give you back your 3%, they will not claw it back. So the minimum credit you can get is 68 to 25 for any particular year, to a maximum of 89.25 for any particular year for if you are a dependent. This is a wonderful program for families who are really looking for a means to finance their home care on a monthly basis. This is something that really makes a difference in a lot of family situations. And one thing that's not written on there is a thing called the GST and the QST. Here's a little known secret. If you are receiving publicly funded home care support, whoever your provider you're paying, they don't have to charge you GST or QST. So right off the bat, you've saved 15%, plus your 35%. So the idea is to make sure to have some type of publicly funded solution in your home care planning. So you complete a request form. The entry requirements are seniors, they must be 70 years or older. They must be able to accept direct deposit, and they must have filed their tax returns for the last 2 years. You meet those bars, and you're fine. You can benefit from this program. And it's a right now program. It's a cash in your bank program today, not 6, 8, 10, 12 months from now. Veterans. We've got a lot of families who have loved ones who've served in the Second World War or served in conflict zones. And what Veterans Affairs does under what we call the Veterans Independence Program, they'll provide upwards of $18,000 a year for veterans for home care services. And it's very easy. If your loved one served, all you need to do is call Veteran Affairs, give their name, and they will find them, and then they will do an assessment, and if they qualify, and most veterans in these conflict zones qualify, they will be able to benefit from close to $18,000 a year. Now, in a perfect scenario, and I've had families in this perfect scenario, they had publicly funded support, no GST. They got their tax credits of 35% that they paid for their services. Plus, they got Veterans Affairs giving them up to $18,000 a year. That alone gives you, we've seen cases where it'll put about $30,000 in someone's pocket to help them fund home care services. So that's real dollars to help real families meet real needs. So all you have to do to access it is just call the local office of Veterans Affairs, and then you'll receive an assessment from their team. Now, the CLSC. How many people have dealt with the CLSC? And I'm scared to say, but how many people have been satisfied? How many people have not been satisfied? So, we have a small number of people who are not satisfied and a lot of people who were satisfied. Now, the reality is most people are not satisfied. There's a number of reasons. Institutional, systemic, resources, you name it, all of them under the sun. What I always say to folks is the following. Regardless of how you feel about the CLSC, always open up a file with the CLSC because it opens the door for you to be tax exempt. It opens the door for more services. So, what are some of the services the CLSC has? They're very good at providing medical support. Anytime you come from the hospital or you have some continuing medical activity that needs to be done, they're very good. They're on top of it. But when it comes to home care services, sometimes it's a hit and a miss. A lot of the times it's close to a miss. But you have to have that file open in order for you to benefit from their services. They offer respite for caregivers. They'll give you 3 hours of care to perform, all sorts of activities, heating up food, maybe just spending time with somebody. There are a lot of also volunteer organizations that do that. We had Graves that was here earlier, and they are a very good organization in this area that provides this type of support. They provide subsidies to families who want to hire their own caregiver. That program, which is called Chèque Emploi Service, is one of the, I would say, it's the jewel in the crown of home care services. But it's not easy to get. You have to advocate for it. And so what this program is, of all their programs, I like this one because it allows you, the individual, to find your own caregiver and they pay. So you find the caregiver, they allocate the hours, the CLSC pays. That way you have control over the care that's being delivered to your loved one. Now, how many people think that this program is easy to get? It's not easy. They won't even let you know they have it. You need to dig and dig and dig and ask for it. I've seen families that got up to 58 hours per week, depending upon the circumstance. In cases of dementia, in cases of chronic conditions, in cases of degenerative neurological conditions. You can get those kinds of hours. But it all depends on, how the assessment goes with the social worker that comes to your door. And it's a bit of, you have to make the case. You have to advocate. And that is not the easiest thing to do because these programs are somewhat hidden behind the curtain, okay? So the key is you call your local CLSC and you obtain an assessment, and based on that assessment, they may or may not give you the services that you're looking for. You may not get the chèque d'emploi service. You may probably start off with, we'll give you 45 minutes of a shower per week. Start it. Take it. It's your entry point. You need to be in their system, and then once you're in their system, you can advocate for more. I know the system is inefficient in cases. You may not always get the same person. You may have to put up with it for a while, but keep at it because it's your entry point to everything else they have. They could even give you 8 weeks of respite. And what that 8 weeks of respite means is you are a natural caregiver taking care of your husband or your wife. You're burnt out. They will say, we'll give you up to 8 weeks of respite. We're going to have your husband or wife. We have a nice facility. They'll go in there for 8 weeks. They'll give you 8 weeks. You can relax. You can take it easy. Just recharge your batteries. One more tool in your arsenal of care. Your goal is to get as many tools as you can to survive. It is not a sprint. It is a marathon, and you need to survive. And so you need to get as many of these programs that you can. And as long as the longer you are in the system and the better relationship with your social worker, you get to the crown jewel if you ask for it. Okay, so just in a quick summary, so you have the home support program. You've got support services that you get from the CLSC. You are available for all the tax credits. And you can use your insurance policy, you can use veterans if you're able, and you can use a CLSC service. You've got a number of things that you can use. So when I say to families, the key for you is to advocate for yourself or have somebody advocate for you. And if it's not you, don't worry, because there are friends, family. Just rely on somebody to help you to get through this maze of what the health and social services will throw your way. And there you go. Any questions?
While we're collecting any questions, I do have a few up here. Please fill out those yellow forms, and I'd ask the presenters too, if they wouldn't mind. Does caregiver tax credit apply to a spouse?
Yes. Glenn put forward some of these on the paper here, and there are some specifically written, but the one that I mentioned in particular is a disability certificate. That certificate, once you get that $8,000 credit on an annual basis, you can transfer that to a spouse. Additionally, we have had cases where with, for example, the home support services that's given the 35%, or the chèque d'emploi service, we have cases where family members someone could hire a family member to be the caregiver, and the CLSC paid that family member.
Just going on to that, would it also cover a senior who has had major orthopedic surgery, is at home, not in a rehab any longer, but nervous to be alone at night, would like to pay for a sitter but needs help?
Yes. All of these programs are available can be used for that purpose. Now, when we get to the chèque d'emploi service, it usually takes a little bit of time to get to it. So, let's say you had hip replacement surgery. That program would not necessarily be fully available to you if you had not had a file opened already. If you had a file opened already with them, you had hip replacement surgery, then when the social worker comes to do an assessment, you can say, you know what, I need help at home. Can I hire my own caregiver? okay, the case is very clear, it can be made. But if you don't have that program, if you don't have yourself set up in the system, you're starting from the beginning. So the idea is, before you leave any hospital, if you feel you're in a vulnerable situation, the idea is at that point, that's when you ask the care team, the interdisciplinary team, and that's the word they use, to help you to get the right CLSC support in place.
I think another important fact, Andrew, is that people do open a file at the CLSC if a parent, let's say, has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, but then there's no need immediately. And maybe 4 years down the road, right before the person is ready to pass away, because I had this happen to one of my former employees who was a friend of mine, the family wanted to get a hospital bed and wanted to have some support for her. The CLSC wanted to do an assessment all over again because the file had not been kept open. And the woman died within a day and a half. And the family just went ballistic. But this is a fact.
It's when we come to cases of dementia, it's very tricky, because you have a loved one who's beginning to lose their cognitive independence progressively over time, and then at some point it's a rapid decline. So during that progressive decline, you're, as the natural caregiver, are saying, Mom, Dad, you know, husband, brother, sister, I need to get you some support. And the only thing they're saying to you is, no, I'm fine, I don't need anything, I'm okay. And there's a bunch of resistance. And you're caught between trying to do what's best for them and trying to respect their wishes, because they are still able to communicate their wishes. And so you're caught in a very difficult place. So you say, okay, we're going to get CLSC services in, and they say, oh, no, I don't think I need something else. What you have to be is imaginative. And that will be, sometimes it might be, they have other programs like housekeeping services. If you fall below a certain income level, they can subsidize housekeeping services. It might be getting a housekeeper, an external housekeeper that's paid by the system to come in on a regular basis. You've done one very important thing. If they agree to having that housekeeper in, you've then introduced a person into their home. A new person, a stranger. And as time goes on, they will get comfortable with having people in their home. But you have to start that early while they're in their most lucid and cognitive and I guess not conscious state, but in their best condition that they are before their condition gets worse.
Can a spouse benefit from the Veteran Affairs benefit?
I have seen spouses benefit for housekeeping services and yard work. The care specifically, the home care, personal care, it's been pretty much exclusively for the veteran, him or herself. But they do benefit, they can benefit from some of those programs as well.
I'm not too sure I understand this. DTC applied to Dementia, Vascular?
Yes, the disability tax credit does apply to vascular dementia. Now, you have to qualify, and it means your doctor has to say, yes, this is a condition where this person is declining in a degenerative manner and it's progressing along, and in that case, they will fill out the paperwork, and then it's up to the federal government to come back with your certificate and approve it. But yes, it does qualify. The key is it has to rise to the level of what Revenue Canada deems as being a disability. And that the only one who can determine that is your doctor.
Perhaps we need to have this explained just a little bit more, Andrew. Who is considered a caregiver? Does it have to be family? Obviously, no.
Well, we've defined it very broadly as family, and it could be friends, it could be, but in terms of how the tax credit program works and who's the beneficiary, it's all related to family members. Now, there has been some talk federally of those credits being a little bit more broader, families and friends, but that at this point has not been fully fleshed out. So when we talk about from the standpoint of tax credits, it's really family and friends or people who are in your immediate circle that are close to you.
Looks like the last one, I was told housekeeping is not paid for, but the CLSC will put it down as other, example, laundry.
Well, they have a program. What the CLSC does is, if you fall under a certain income category, it's typically about $50,000. Anything under that, they will subsidize housekeeping services. Every sector has a designated housekeeping company that only takes care of that sector. So as long as you qualify and as long as your income meets that needs test, they will subsidize a portion of your housekeeping care. So they will. If you're at $57,000, they'll say, you know what, you can afford it, pay out of pocket, you know. But if you're below that, then they will subsidize.
Andrew, thank you very, very much, like always. Major success.